commentary. We are exploring listening to albums. It is a lost art form. We took an hour out of our day. We switched off the phones, we switched off the computers, we did not answer the door. We sat down and we listened to the artist's vision and concept. Pet Shop Boys, actually. Again, a request from a YouTube viewer. We love these requests. Keep them coming, and this really, you know, informs our choices when you're actually asking for things. We love looking for it. So, the second album from Pet Shop Boys was released on the 7th of September 1987 and recorded in Psalm West Studios and Advision in London. The production team was fairly extensive, with Pet Shop Boys as very much part of that process, together with Julian Mendelssohn, Stephen Hague, Andy Richards, Shep Pettibone, and David Jacob. It was released on Parlophone in the UK and EMI Manhattan here in the States. It performed significantly in many a territory. #1 in Germany, #2 in UK and Sweden, #3 in Switzerland and Norway. Also scoring top 10 placings in Austria, Holland, and New Zealand. The Pet Shop Boys were formed in 1981 and have sold more than 50 million records globally. They are recognized by the Guinness Book of Records as the most successful duo in UK history. To Pet Shop Boys devotees, the history is storied. They met at an electronics store on the King's Road and connected on this common ground of dance music. They began collaborating on ideas which resulted in later hit singles such as It's a Sin and Rent, which are included on Actually. In the Pet Shop Boys world, Bobby O reigned supreme, and while on assignment in New York to interview the police for smash hits, Neil clinched a meeting with Orlando to share a cheeseburger, and pretty soon Pet Shop Boys and Bobby O had recorded 11 tracks together. West End Girls was one of these tracks. It was released and caught the attention of Los Angeles and San Francisco and became Screamer of the Week on the East Coast on LAR, which is a storied radio station which, you know, really helped the British invasion side of things. Tom Watkins at some point became the manager for the group, and it is known in the industry that his 11th hour finaglings clinched the group a major label deal. Watkins' brash, unapologetic style may well have clashed with Pet Shop Boys' more refined sensibilities, and management and group parted ways fairly early into their career, but not before he had helped them become pop stars and indeed millionaires. The Pet Shop Boys are Neil Tennant and Chris Lowe. As for their name, they had friends who owned a pet store in Ealing. They'd always liked West End as a name. In the school playground enough, though, this was someone who shoved a hamster up their bum for fun. The iconic sleeve of the record features Chris and Neil sporting tuxedos as Neil is caught in the middle of a ginormous yawn, appearing terribly bored with it all. Now, of all the groups that there are out there, and of course there are hundreds and thousands, I have a great affinity with Pet Shop Boys. I was lucky enough when I reviewed the singles for Smash Hits back in 1985, it was Neil Tennant that actually took down my comments and came out of the room, you know, pulling his hair out basically as I drove him absolutely crackers, and I kept asking him what this song was playing on Carnaby Street, and it was A Flock of Seagulls Wishing. But as he was trying to figure it out and I kept bothering with him, he told me to shut up. My mum went out for pizza with him once, and it was really nice in '85 because just through being around and the proximity of Smash Hits, and I went to his leaving do when all the Smash Hits journalists shared their stories of all the different assignments they'd been on, and I tried stuffed mushrooms for the first time and cappuccino and had all this Ponzi Italian stuff, which, you know, for a kid of my age, it really was the life. And Neil Tennant and Chris used to come by the office as well, and these were really two lovely people who went on and had great success. So there is definitely, I have an affinity with this group. I'm compared to them a lot. My music gets compared to them a lot. Sure, why not? I mean, I like them. And I can't explain it. You know, this was a group I had been right next to. These were people, I didn't know them that well, but I knew them enough to say, you know, I would have been able to wave to them at some point and say hello. I used to send my music in. they would actually sometimes return the tape but keep the correspondence, which I always thought was a classy kind of thing to do. So it was interesting listening to this album. There was a lot of me in this. And, you know, there are other stories to tell. But one of my great things is Barbara Sharon, who's a good friend of Neil, who used to be... Well, actually, in '85, she was taking care of, like, small acts on Warner. At that time, Madonna, Prince, a-ha, and Howard Jones, who went on to become... Obviously, Madonna and Prince became... legends, and then Barbara became director of communications at Warner Music, which is how I wound up getting a deal there. But we were in the press office at WEA, and she had Neil on the phone, who was over at Parlophone, I think Manchester Square, I think over there, and they couriered over West End Girls for me, and he signed it, and he said, "Hope you like it," and that was the week it went in at number 40, and we watched. Me and my family watched this thing go to number 1, and it was surreal because not but a year before we'd been sat in the office and having lunch with Neil. So this was a wonderful thing. This was a really, of all the pop stars that are out there, and I've met quite a few, this is the story that really resonated with me and has kept me going for a long time. You know, the idea that I had proximity. You know, I'd call Neil in '84 and we'd talk about Howard Jones and we'd talk about the different groups. I'd call in the summer and I'd be on the phone sometimes for 30 minutes to him. So there is a bit, you know, a personal kind of touch to this review. And all I will say to you is, this is not their best album. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat, because stuff that they do later is so unbelievably brilliant. I have to keep it in perspective, if that makes sense. So don't think I'm giving this preamble and then slagging them off. I'm not doing that. But what I am doing is bearing this album in mind in relation to other stuff that comes later, which is far superior. As we've said, it's the second album, right? So they're still learning. I'm sure that they would agree with that. Enough of my gabbing. Let's get on with the music. One More Chance gets off to a flying start with a skidding car and synthesized chirruping. It's pretty nightclubby. Push me in the corner and I'll scream. It's unmistakably Pet Shop Boys. Strangers in Overcoats, Hurry On Home sounds mildly pervy. It's essentially a disco instrumental with vocal riffs. I don't mind it. It has a trademark bridge of theirs. No one's going to be offended if I say there's better songs on the album. What have I done to deserve this with Dusty Springfield? You'll remember my great U2 story. When U2 sent them a bouquet of flowers. You've got to look at the U2 review to get that story, but that still tickles me to this day. I don't know if Neil would find it funny, but this is an amazing 1987 #2 record in the UK. You could argue that this was early Pet Shops at their best. Dusty's Since You Went Away refrain is nostalgic confection. The lyrics delivered in Neil's deadpan West End Girl style of delivery makes this song a concrete block in the house of Pet Shop Boys foundation. Dusty vamps to fade with that insistent and timely synth hook, and you could say that this was a blueprint as to how to have a hit in the 1980s. The production was courtesy of Stephen Hague, and just as it had made #2 in the UK, it reached #2 in the States also. Sweden, Finland, and Holland also made it a #2. Ireland had the good sense to make it a #1. Belgium, Canada, Germany, New Zealand, Norway, Poland, Spain, and Switzerland made it a top 10 song. Neil is quoted in the 90s as having said of Morrissey that he was completely obsessed with chart positions. I dare say that Dusty's legend benefited exponentially from this 80s exposure. I'm glad the Pet Shop Boys had the vision to bring her back from the public wilderness and let her unique star shine once again. Quick mention. Did you hear that she was supposed to do Don't Go Breaking My Heart with Elson instead of Kiki D? Digest that little nugget. Apparently the only reason she couldn't do it because she was sick at that time. But I love the idea of Dusty having done Don't Go Breaking My Heart with Elton John. That would have been... Can you imagine how great that would have been? I think it was Rashid who's been a guest on this show that shared that nugget with me, but I just wanted to put that out there. Shopping. I heard it in the House of Commons. Everything's for sale. This gentle political nudge is what makes me okay with this song. Privatization was a hot button issue, and there would be a big bang in the city later in 1987 as the stock market crashed. The robotic synth voices make this a legit inhabitant of the era, but it's not a reason to direct you to this body of work. Rent. My mum likes this one. She related to the lyrics 100%. I love you, you pay my rent. You know, it's these marriages, convenience, just... There's such a sadness to this song, you know? It's a sad and stark atmosphere. It's a number 8 UK hit. The simulated synth brass on this song has the best lines. Rent for me ties in with 3 dreadful events in 1987. There was this terrible storm that blew a bunch of trees down and caused a lot of damage in the UK. There's the King's Cross tube fire, and then the stock market crash. You feel for Neil's character in the record. It doesn't sound like he's having a good time. It's a good song in as much as it is capable of changing your headspace, but I walk away with haunting dereliction. It's a burned out shell of a building. It's King's Cross, but it's rent. Had this song been called and lyrically altered to King's Cross, it would be a potent and unbeatable gem on a secret playlist for me. This song makes me sad. The fact that it affects me at all is to its credit. Produced by Julian Mendelssohn, the single version was amped up by Stephen Hague. Chris Lowe is at King's Cross Overground for the video. Margie Clark is in there, love her. They recently killed her off in Coronation Street. She's hilarious. She's really funny, and so I love that they had her in there. Charts-wise, Poland made it a number 1. Ireland, Italy, Germany, and Switzerland put it in the top 10. Hit music. I prefer hit music to shopping. I think there's huge amounts of sarcasm built into this production. The chorus reminds me of something else I can't put my finger on. The singles so far are capturing my attention far more than the album material, but we are not talking bad music here. Dated? Yes, but it's topical and relevant to the time it was released. 1987 was all about industrial fashion-wise, and this music is doing its fashion duty. It couldn't happen here. Paying bills comes up a lot on this album. Shame on me, I've never seen the movie. One thing I must say about Neil and Chris is their devotion to a British way of approaching the subject matter. This has a stately, almost Elgar feel to it. I like this better than shopping and hit music. I enjoy the strings and its middle-class kitchen sink melodrama, yet the singles continue to make actually matter to me. There are times when Neil's voice takes on an amphibian quality which drives me slightly bonkers. But make no mistake, if I were asked to go back for Pet Shop Boys' honor, I'd do so in a heartbeat. They are one of my favorite bands and one that I am endlessly compared to. It's a Sin. I'm going to have a little sip of this beer because it's pretty good home brew. Hang on. This is not a sin, actually. This is pretty good. We might have to have our director brew you some. Anyway, for It's a Sin, Julian Mendelssohn and Stephen Hague produced this UK #1 smash. Jonathan King accused the boys of ripping off Wild World by Cat Stevens, and they slapped him with a lawsuit, which they won and gave to charity. Austria, Finland, Germany, Ireland, Italy, Norway, Poland, Spain, Sweden, all made this a #1 single. It was Europe's super smash as people flocked to empathize with the sentiment of the song, which was basically that unless you're a monk, everything you do is a mortal sin. This tied in with Neil's Catholic schooling in Newcastle upon Tyne. Derek Jarman directed and depicted the 7 deadly sins. We would rehearse the hell out of this in the music room at school, and I think it's a song that guaranteed Pet Shop Boys would have a longer future in the business. Neil Tennant had emotion on this. Up until this point, he'd been pouncing around cool as a cucumber, drinking espressos on the King's Road, and projecting an erudite aloofness for my money. Here he had something to say, and the subject matter was understood, and they were rewarded with one of the biggest hit singles of their career. Deserve This still beats It's a Sin for me, but not by much. Australia, Canada, the US, and New Zealand also made this a top 10. I Want to Wake Up. I like this one. Neil sings about listening to Tainted Love and People Are Strange. There is some soft sell in what Pet Shop Boys do. It has the shuddering synth effect, which is also used on Heart later. At this point in the album, you're very accustomed to their style at this period. It's upbeat, and this would have done okay on the charts had it been released as a single. King's Cross, classic use of the Tennant octave style, a la So Hard. It has an epic quality to it. At this point, King's Cross is probably gentrified to a point where the pavements are made of gluten-free lavages, but it used to be grim. A sooty, seedy industrial hub of nothing you wanted to get close to. Almost like a dishonest version of Soho in its red light days. I don't name names, but the person who inspired the lyrics, Someone Told Me Monday, Someone Told Me Saturday, I crossed paths with in Christmas 1988. I worked at KFC King's Cross in 1989 and was a bicycle courier there for a short time. The lyrics auguring of a disaster, I think, were completely unintentional. There's an almost Asian sensibility to the instrumentation at times. It's not really possible for me not to like this song. I feel close to it. Like I said, I know the person that inspired the lyrics, and that was a very memorable time in my life. And then the fact that I worked in King's Cross, I like this song a lot. Even if it wasn't the greatest song, I just like that it's called King's Cross and that I have a closeness to it. So, good song. Heart. I love Heart. I love it. It comes together beautifully. It's a well-deserved UK #1. Unapologetically disco and uniquely Pet Shop Boys. It's my favourite song on the album. I love the art direction of the single sleeves. Always on my mind had been the Christmas #1, and I remember thinking that their self-confidence in this period was inspiring. And make no mistake, you could really dance to this song. They'd written it for Madonna, bless them. I'm glad they didn't ask her to do it, because Heart is one of their greatest hits, among their greatest hits, and I find that it's one that people forget about. I love the bridge. The video was shot in former Yugoslavia. PSB themselves don't love Heart, but Finland, Germany, Ireland, Switzerland, and New Zealand didn't let that stop them making this a #1 song. Beat, heartbeat, dynamite. By the way, produced by Andy Richards and the Pet Shop Boys, the string sweeps, to die for. Go and listen to it. The final mark for Pet Shop Boys, actually, it's 70%. And again, I'm going to justify this mark because I like these guys and I care about these guys. It's only because they have work that comes after this, which is even better. 70%, actually, Pet Shop Boys.
What would you give it if there was nothing else? If you only listen to this album, you can't...
I'd probably put another 10% on. I'd probably put another 10% on just because it would be so unique. But they go on to do much, much better things.
So, but I mean, listening to just this album as a whole, you would give it an 80. Not having...
I don't know, because then there'd still be other things that you'd have to put it up against. You know, what am I going to do? Am I going to say this is as good as Dare? It's not as good as Dare. Yeah. It's not. And that's not because they're not a great band. They are a great band. It's just... I don't know. I feel like they were still finding their feet here. I really think this was still a new process for them. They also had a manager, Tom Watkins. He cannot be underplayed here. Tom Watkins is a taskmaster. He's like pop genius. But I don't think these guys were like gelling. They got rid of him. You know, because I sent a tape in once to Tom Watkins, and you'll find this hilarious, but he sent it back, and it said, gob, shit, and awful. He sent on, you know, and that's the kind of guy he was. He was, like, blunt and aggressive. And in the music business, you do need characters like that. But that doesn't really tie in with the kind of people that I know Pet Shop Boys to be, which are they're nice people. I don't know that they like that sort of behavior. They had that album called Behavior, I think, which came after this, right? No, it's introspective and then it's behavior, but 70% I think is a fair mark for this body of work.